Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something pretty remarkable.
It's the peak of World War II, and President Franklin Roosevelt steps up and says, those basic rights we've had since the 18th century, they're not quite enough anymore.
He actually proposed a second Bill of Rights. Yeah. So for this deep dive, we're looking only at the words from his speech footage. We want to understand what he called these new economic proofs that had become self-evident. Our mission really is to unpack the specific rights he thought were absolutely crucial for America after the war. For security, for prosperity, and why things like a good job or decent health care were suddenly right up there with, say, freedom of speech. It feels like a huge shift, doesn't it? From government leaving you alone to government actively ensuring certain outcomes. So what exactly did FDR think needed adding? Let's get into it.
Well, the timing is just fascinating, isn't it? And the sheer ambition of it all. This wasn't some dry policy memo. This was him talking to the whole country right in the middle of this massive global war, basically saying, here's what we're actually fighting for.
Okay, so what was the big idea behind it?
He argued these rights would set up a, quote, new basis of security and prosperity. And crucially, he said it was for all regardless of station or race or creed. So it wasn't presented as, like, charity. It was framed as the essential foundation for a working, peaceful society after the fighting stopped.
It's interesting you mentioned the original Bill of Rights. Those are often seen as negative rights, freedom from government interference. But this second bill sounds like positive rights, things the government should guarantee you get, like a job or health care. Doesn't that sound, well, almost utopian back then? Or incredibly expensive?
It definitely sounds radical. But FDR, having lived through the Great Depression, framed it as economic common sense, really, not just idealism. He was trying to pivot the nation, move beyond just basic survival towards what the source calls new goals of human happiness and well-being. For him, you couldn't really be truly free from fear without these basic material guarantees. It was maybe the price of keeping democracy stable in this new industrial world.
Right, so it wasn't just about fixing the economy temporarily. It was about building a foundation for, well, happiness in society. And the structure he used is really telling. These weren't just vague ideas.
No, not at all. Very specific.
He laid out 8 concrete economic rights, things that cover your whole life, basically, from getting an education right through to old age. Shall we walk through them?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We can group the first couple under, say, work and income security, the very first one he listed.
The right to a useful and remunerative job.
Exactly. Useful and remunerative.
Let's pause on remunerative. That's a strong word choice. He didn't just say the right to any job, or even a minimum wage one. Remunerative. What's baked into that?
It suggests a higher standard, doesn't it? A remunerative job isn't just busy work. It implies fair pay, something that provides dignity, security. It means the work itself should be worthwhile, and the pay should actually support you properly. It's a recognition, perhaps, that just having a job, any low-paying, dead-end job, doesn't really hit that goal of security and prosperity he was talking about.
Okay. And flowing directly from that is the second right. It clarifies what that remunerative job should actually achieve for someone.
Right. The right to, quote, earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation.
And recreation. That just jumps out. Food and clothing. Okay. Basic needs. But recreation. That seems different.
It's a really profound addition, I think. It implies that human dignity needs more than just survival. It acknowledges that having some leisure time, the ability to enjoy life beyond just working and eating, is actually fundamental. It's like saying the government's job doesn't stop at keeping you fed. It extends to enabling a fuller life.
Wow. If you were, say, a factory worker in 1944, hearing the president say you have a right to recreation, time off, enjoyment, that must have sounded revolutionary.
Absolutely. It's almost redefining what it means to be a citizen in a way.
Okay, so we've got the worker covered a good job, enough pay for necessities and recreation. But an economy needs producers too, right? Farmers, businesses.
Precisely. So the next category, we could call it fair trade and support for producers. He addressed farmers first.
Yes, the right of every farmer to raise and sell his products at a return, ensuring him and his family a decent living.
This hits right at the heart of the farm crisis during the Depression, doesn't it? That volatility in prices that just wiped people out. Guaranteeing a decent living implies needing some stability. It suggests government intervention, price supports, something to shield farmers from those wild market swings. It's security by design, essentially.
And then he balanced the farmer's right with one for businesses, which on the surface might seem a bit contradictory to all these guarantees.
He talked about the right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom.
But, and this is a big but, he specified that freedom included freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad.
And that's a really critical piece, especially the at home or abroad part. It connects his domestic vision directly to the global economy.
Why spell out foreign monopolies like that? I mean, the war was still going on. Why worry about global market control when talking about American rights?
Well, think about the lead up to the war. Economic warfare, huge international cartels, unfair trade practices, these were major factors. There was a real sense, I think, that post-war powerful economic forces, maybe from rivals or even former enemies, could dominate markets in a way that would hurt American businesses and workers. So protecting businesses, large and small, from that kind of domination wasn't just about fair play domestically. It was about ensuring American economic independence.
So if a foreign monopoly stifles American companies,
Then that remunerative job he just promised the American worker is immediately at risk.
yeah,
It's basically foreign policy wrapped up in a domestic economic right.
that's quite something. The idea that the small shop owner in, I don't know,
Oh.
Kansas, has a right to be protected from a giant German conglomerate becomes almost a constitutional concept in his view.
Exactly. It shows he was thinking holistically. Security wasn't just about borders, it was also about protecting the economic engine from manipulation, wherever it came from.
Okay, let's shift to the third big area. This one feels very broad, covering basic welfare, health, the safety net. He started simply.
The right of every family to a decent home.
Decent home, shelter obviously, but decent implies more. Quality, safety, affordability.
All of the above, I'd say. It's about stability. A recognition that if people don't have secure housing, it creates all sorts of other problems for society. Again, it sets a minimum standard.
Then he moves into healthcare. This sounds more familiar to modern ears.
Yes, the right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health.
Adequate medical care, okay.
Yeah.
But also the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health. That sounds broader than just fixing you when you're sick.
It does suggest more, perhaps, preventative care,
Right.
public health measures, creating conditions where people can be healthy, not just patching them up afterwards.
And this category finishes with maybe the biggest catch-all.
Ah, yes. The right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment.
That's huge. Old age, sickness, accidents, losing your job. That covers pretty much all the major economic risks life throws at you, doesn't it?
It's the comprehensive safety net,
Yeah.
essentially. Social Security, unemployment insurance, disability support, it's all foreshadowed there. The idea is that bad luck, or just the natural process of aging, shouldn't mean complete ruin.
It ensures that the remunerative job or the decent home aren't just wiped out by getting sick or laid off, things often outside your control. It's security against, well, life itself.
Precisely.
And finally, the eighth right. Standing a bit on its own, but maybe underpinning everything else.
Absolute fundamental. The right to a good education.
Good education, not just an education.
Right. Quality matters. Because how do you get that useful and remunerative job? How do you participate as a citizen? How do you understand complex issues? Education is the key. It's the engine for opportunity, isn't it? The idea that everyone should have a fair shot, regardless of, where they started. Okay, so let's pull back. We have these 8 specific rights: jobs, fair pay, recreation, fair markets for farmers and businesses, protection from monopolies, decent homes, health care, a safety net for life's risks, and education. What did FDR say was the point of all this? What did they collectively spell? He was very clear. He said, all of these rights spell security. That was the goal. Economic security for the individual, for the family, for the nation.
But he didn't stop there, did he? He immediately connected this domestic security blanket to something much bigger.
He did. He pivoted right to the global situation. He basically said, look, we need to implement these rights, achieve this domestic security, because, and this is the crucial link, quote, unless the security here at home is established, there cannot be lasting peace in the world.
Wow. So ensuring Americans have jobs, homes, health care, that's not just good domestic policy. It's a prerequisite for world peace.
That was his argument. It's a powerful claim. The logic seems to be that internal hardship, poverty, lack of opportunity, fear breeds instability. And that internal instability doesn't just stay contained. It can spill over, create resentment, maybe lead to extremism or aggressive regimes, and ultimately threaten peace everywhere.
So a secure, stable, reasonably prosperous America is a more reliable partner for peace on the world stage.
Exactly. By taking care of things at home, by fulfilling the Second Bill of Rights, America would not only be stronger domestically, but it would also be contributing directly to a more stable and peaceful world order after the chaos of the war. It's quite a vision.
It really is. We started this deep dive talking about individual economic rights, things like jobs and housing, and we've ended up discussing the foundations of global stability. So, just to recap for you listening, FDR laid out this bold vision in the middle of WWII. He argued that basic economic guarantees the right to a useful job, fair pay, protection for farmers and businesses, decent housing, healthcare, a safety net, and a good education were now self-evident necessities. He saw them all collectively spelling security. But here's the final thought for you to chew on. He explicitly linked achieving this domestic economic security, defined in quite ambitious terms, not just subsistence, to the possibility of global peace. It wasn't just about making American lives better. It was presented as a fundamental component of foreign policy. Think about that connection. How might the lack of these kinds of basic economic securities in various parts of the world today contribute to the conflicts and instability we see? It reframes economic inequality not just as a social issue, but potentially as a core threat to international peace. Something to consider.